5X. So you probably heard about this phone, and as you know, the big draw is the price. Here in America, it will be just $199, which is one of those prices that makes you think, okay, so what's the catch? So far, there really doesn't seem to be one that I can find. This seems like a very good phone for the most part. For the Android enthusiast, the big catch is obviously that it runs Android 5.1, and when it'll get Marshmallow is pretty much anybody's guess. So if you really, really want a phone that you know is going to get Marshmallow and relatively soon, maybe not the phone to buy, or at least not the phone to buy right now until we get more information about what Marshmallow is going to look like on this device. Key specifications: Snapdragon 615 processor, like near every damn mid-range phone in America right now. Although obviously this is a bit cheaper than your average Snapdragon 15 device, so that's definitely a plus. It has a 5.5-inch 1920 by 1080 IPS LCD that to me looks pretty good. Viewing angles aren't the hottest, but straight on it looks pretty solid. I can't really comment on accuracy at the moment. I don't have a good reference point. But to my eyes, the screen itself looks pretty good, definitely. Like I said, you've got that Snapdragon 615 octa-core processor, a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, which for a 5.5-inch phone is not gigantic, but for something that costs $200, again, pretty decent. We'll see what the battery life is actually like in reality. I don't have a SIM card in it, and I've just barely been using it, so I don't have a good reference point to provide you there. It's got most of the LTE bands you're going to want in America. The spec sheet we got says band 12, but when I talked to Honors people last night, they said band 12 is disabled out of the box in America, so it won't work here. And that being the case with a lot of phones now coming out because of issues with T-Mobile's E911 and band 12 call dropping kind of thing. I don't want to get into that in this video, but basically if you buy one in America, it probably doesn't have T-Mobile band 12. So just be aware of that. It has 16 gigabytes of storage, 2 gigabytes of RAM, a micro SD slot that allows up to a 128 gigabyte card, a 13 megapixel rear camera on the back here, a fingerprint sensor, which is great for $199. How can you argue with that? A 5 megapixel camera on the front, and the fingerprint sensor does work just fine. It's not the fastest one in the world, but it's relatively quick. Not as quick as the Mate 8 I've got over here, definitely, but quick enough to work for sure. And the back positioning makes it obviously a little more convenient than, like, say, the one on HTC's 1A9. Haven't had a chance to test the cameras yet, so I'm not really sure how those work. Performance-wise, it feels relatively okay. It's not super slow or anything, but you can tell this is, not a crazy fast chipset. And again, for $199, who's going to complain, I guess. On the software side, this phone running Android 5.1.1 has Huawei's rather kind of irksome setup where, so if I get in here, no, that's not in this area, trying to find where it is here, but basically, for a lot of apps by default, they aren't allowed to run in the background. And so it's a bit strange that Huawei does it this way. I'm actually not finding it here. Oh, there we go, protected apps. So the idea here is that protected apps are allowed to run after the screen is turned off. And so I guess in concept, it's similar to doze mode, but we don't know how it works under the hood. So I really have no idea if, this, like, for example, any new app you install by default is, quote, not protected. And so it can't run in the background when the screen is off. Some people may appreciate this because it will obviously increase your battery life, but it could result in delayed notifications. It could result potentially in other issues with apps. And so it's one of those things that's always annoyed me about Huawei's phones, especially that it's enabled by default. You can bulk approve apps for running in the background. So there is that, or you can bulk disapprove them. As with the Mate 8, also the notification center has this wacky thing going on where by default, when a new app is installed, it only gets access to the status bar specifically. So it can put an icon on the status bar for its notifications, but it can't do a scrolling banner, and it can't put a notification on the lock screen. I still don't really get the logic for this, but this is how Huawei's phones work. And if you want apps to be able to do banners or to do lock screen notifications, you have to go in for every single one you install and enable it. It's kind of obnoxious. Most people probably won't care, so not too much to worry about, I guess. Like I said, the software is Android 5.1.1, and the current version of EMUI in here is version 3.1. Like I said, Lollipop, who knows when or necessarily if. I guess it depends on how well the phone sells to some extent. If it's a breakout success, I'm going to guess they're going to kind of get on the stick with Marshmallow. But, we just don't have any information at this point. Other than that, as far as the build quality and everything is concerned, it feels pretty nice, I suppose. It doesn't, again, for $199, it's hard to find things to complain about this phone. The aesthetic is what it is. I've never been a big fan of Huawei's industrial design. Some people are. I find it looks a bit actually kind of with the square-ish camera there and the antenna bands on the top and bottom. It looks almost HTC-ish to me, but not quite. So it's kind of a mishmash. It's a micro USB port on this phone. Bottom firing speakers, which I haven't really had a chance to test. They seem reasonably loud. Just doing the little unlock sound there. Well, maybe not that loud after all. Testing the volume for a second. This phone will be available shortly for $199 again in America. Pre-orders will start soon, and they'll throw in a set of headphones and a chance to win a second phone, I think, if you pre-order. As far as bloatware goes, let's get on that subject because I know that was such an issue with the Asus Zenfone after it came out, especially when they started adding bloatware and software updates. There are only 4 third-party preload apps I can find on this: Facetune, Shazam, Facebook, and Twitter. All of them can be uninstalled right out of the box, which is great. So there don't seem to be any pieces of third-party bloat that you won't be able to remove easily from this phone, at least at this point. Whether that will remain the same in updates, I didn't ask on or about that specifically, but we'll definitely keep an eye